Hey everybody, it's Columbus Wire's Andy Evans coming at you with the Ohio State-Iowa pregame preview. But before we get into that, I do want to issue an apology to a one Joseph Thomas Barrett IV. Before last week's game against Penn State, I said that if Ohio State wanted to beat Penn State, they should not expect to keep JT Barrett in the pocket to throw the football to win the game. And boy, was I wrong. I mean, the dude went off. 16 straight passes completed at the end of the game. 13 passes alone, all completed in the fourth quarter, 170 yards and 3 touchdowns. And of course, as we now know, completed one of the greatest comebacks in Ohio State history.
Andy, what did you seem to like from today's practice?
Well, the theme was, how are you going to come back against Iowa? Obviously a devastating loss last weekend, but they still hold the cards on the table. You know, they still have the chips in their hands as far as, what they can accomplish here with a big win against Michigan State. So, the whole rhetoric was, what's the team's demeanor? How have you guys responded? What's practice been like? I don't think we necessarily got as much out of the guys as we thought. Of course, I heard a lot of obligatory responses, and that was, we're responding well and practice is good and so on and so forth. However, we heard a lot last week going into Iowa that no, this isn't, there's not going to be a letdown. We're fine. We're okay. Penn State game didn't throw us off. Was that the case or not? They still say no this week, but I still have a tendency to think that maybe there was just a little bit of a drag there, especially when they got down 14 points at the half. So with that being said, I think it's going to be interesting to see how they respond this coming weekend.
Is there anybody that particularly stood out to you in today's interview sessions?
It might have been Johnny Dixon, surrounded by Paris Campbell, Ben Victor, and KJ Hill. They had a consortium of guys, and I think that shows the relationship between the guys in Zone 6. After the Penn State game, it was Terry McLaurin and Johnny doing a dual interview session there after the game. So these guys, they get along great, and had guys like Paris and KJ and Terry McLaurin and others gone to Johnny and said, dude, we need you back next year. You have to come back. I mean, they really had to talk them into it. And I'm sure a lot of Buckeye fans out there, as well as, others, are happy that they did, because he has become the breakout star.
Andy, I start with you, obviously, because you're the only one here.
You could start with somebody else, but I'm not sure if they'll be answering you anytime soon.
The chair to my left and the chair to your right's empty.
So. Well, I don't even have a chair to my right now, so.
Jamarco is
Jamarco Jones, he already left.
He was occupying it and kind of calling somebody. But big week for the Buckeyes, senior week inside of the Horseshoe right now, which is really for a lot of guys. I remember talking to Billy Price at the start of the season in Bloomington, said he wanted to take time to kind of enjoy his senior year, kind of not take anything for granted necessarily. We also talked to other players, Jalen Holmes. We talked to Tracy Sprinkle, a lot of those guys. Everybody, the big question seemed to be, who was going to cry? Andy, who is your vote for who's going to cry on Saturday?
You know what, Ralph? I mean, I don't know these guys all that well on a personal level. I've gotten to know them a little bit just through, what we have done here with Columbus Wired and coming to the interview sessions and stuff like that. But I think that what did Jalen say? That Billy was going to be the one to cry?
Called him William.
William, yes. William. He did call him by his proper full given name. William
Price from Austintown, Ohio.
Yeah, one fifth-year senior offensive guard, now center. He switched positions so many darn times I forget where he's at half the time.
A jack of all trades.
Yeah, he is a jack of all trades. He said that Billy Price was going to cry, but you know what? Quite frankly, I wouldn't blame any of these guys if they cried. I mean, this has been a senior class that's won, 46 games in their career, and that
national
championship. I mean, many things. A Big Ten championship. So for these guys, and not just at Ohio State, everywhere, at all colleges. It's a growing process. And Jalen Holmes was really frank in what he had to tell us about his time here at Ohio State when he first got here. His interactions with teammates that really lifted him up and got him back centered into a spot where he felt comfortable with being a Buckeye, and most importantly, his mom, who basically said, you ain't coming back here if you expect to leave Ohio State.
Hey everybody, what's going on? It's Andy Evans with Columbus Wired, and we're finally here. We've hit that point in the year It's the fourth Saturday in November, and of course that can mean only one thing. That's right, the game, the greatest rivalry in all of college football, the greatest rivalry in all of sports. Throw the records out the window, throw the accolades out the window. It doesn't matter who's done what or who is where they are at this point in the year. It only means one thing. It means pride. It means respect. It means Ohio State versus Michigan. Here we go, folks. This is your Columbus Wired Ohio State Michigan pregame preview, and of course, I'm happy to bring it to you. Unfortunately, I'm riding solo this show. My man Ralph Schudel was not able to come along, but hopefully he'll be along when we preview Ohio State's Big Ten championship game versus Wisconsin next week. But right now, none of that matters. It's time to break down the Buckeyes and the Wolverines. 9th-ranked Ohio State walking into this one right now at 9-2. They are 7-1 in the Big Ten, taking on the Wolverines, who have had a little bit of a lackluster season, but are still hanging on to a good record at 8-3 overall, 5-3 in the Big Ten. So what's going to happen? This is the game, like I said, you throw everything out the window. Accolades don't matter. Everything that JT Barrett has done up to this point in his career absolutely does not matter.
But onwards, as we said, Ohio State victorious against the Michigan Wolverines up in Ann Arbor behind the heroics of Dwayne Haskins and Austin Mack. I think a third down play that will go down in history.
3rd and 13. That was previously a 3rd and 3 and 2 straight false starts, push him back 10 yards. And then you ask a redshirt freshman who came in on that very same drive to convert on a 3rd and 13 against a Michigan team that was allowing only 25% of third downs being converted coming into that game. Yeah. And all he did was step back and he iced one to Austin Mack. And more impressive than the pass, the fact that he put into a spot that only Mack could catch, is the fact that Mack made the catch, got tattooed, absolutely blasted in the side. In fact, he got hit so hard that the guy who hit him knocked himself out, and Mack was able to hold on to the catch, and they were able to go down then, score a touchdown, and take the lead. And from that point, they never took back. Could be one of the more historic third downs in OSU-Michigan game history for sure.
Despite all traffic and all weather, we've made it to Indianapolis, Indiana for the Big Ten championship game. Andy, how was your driving?
Not that great, Ralph. I'll be quite honest with you. I got stuck in a little bottleneck there on Route 70. Luckily, though, I made it through in one piece, made it here, and now we stand before you guys talking a little Ohio State-Wisconsin football.
Yeah, it's big, a lot of stakes up here. You know, obviously, if you're Wisconsin, you're coming in undefeated, 6.5-point underdog. I take it to you, Andy.
Yeah.
Wisconsin comes in. They've got pretty much an axe to grind tonight.
Absolutely.
They've got a statement game. Nobody thinks they're going to win this game. Ohio State comes in highly favored, highly touted. What do you do if you're Paul Chryst, Alex Hornibrook, and Jonathan Taylor? How do you hit Ohio State right in the mouth to start off?
Well, first of all, Ralph, I really don't understand how, the 4th-ranked undefeated team in the country is an underdog to Ohio State. Wisconsin has not played quite the schedule that Ohio State has. They don't have the amount of quality wins that the Buckeyes do. However, they have 0 losses, and they're the 4th-ranked team in the country, so figure that one out. If you are Paul Chryst, Alex Hornibrook, Jonathan Taylor, the offensive line, the defense, whatever, you have to, depending on who's starting at quarterback, and like you said, we'll get into that in a second, but whoever's starting at quarterback, especially if it's JT Barrett, you have to stop him, you have to contain him, but then you've also got to be able to stop the run. Right now, Ohio State right behind Wisconsin in proficiency in rushing the football in the Big Ten. In fact, they are actually the top-ranked rushing offense right now in the conference. So if you're Wisconsin, you've got to stop the run, you've got to stop J.K. Dobbins and Mike Weber, and you've got to force J.T. Barrett or Dwayne Haskins to throw the ball.
We know about J.T. Barrett's injury. We know about Cameragate in Ann Arbor last weekend. Who takes the field for the Buckeyes tonight?
Personally, if I am Urban Meyer, I want your 5th-year senior captain, 3-time quarterback of the year in the Big Ten Conference out there to take the field. He provides, I think, a bit of, that emphasis of just power, just that overall psychological standpoint. He's going to get those guys ready. I mean, he's a leader, he's a captain, and I get where people are coming from when they say that they want Dwayne Haskins. And then the kid's got an arm, he's got a rocket. He does remind me of Cardale Jones. However, give me that mental edge. That's where I want to start, because that's what I think helped them in that Michigan comeback last weekend was the fact that JT was the one who led them to the first 2 touchdowns. That helped Dwayne Haskins get out there and really prepare himself mentally to be able to lead the Buckeyes on a comeback. So if it's me, Ralph, I think you are going to see an 85 to 90% JT Barrett starting this football game.
This Wisconsin offense is very dynamic, and we've seen with the Buckeyes, as we've talked about on Tuesday, they've had difficulty covering the tight end, and there's a great tight end on the Wisconsin sideline.
Absolutely, Troy Fumagalli. I mean, you're talking about a first-team all Big Ten tight end here. So running the football for Wisconsin, obviously Jonathan Taylor. We're talking about a kid who's run for over 1,800 yards, 3rd all-time in FBS history for a true freshman with 1,800 yards. So this kid's the real deal, and he has an offensive line, just a bunch of hogs in front of him that are going to be doing a great job of blocking. So with Wisconsin's scheme, they love to run the ball, they love to pound it, and then you might see him try to go to the tight ends, take a little bit of a page out of Iowa's playbook and throw it to the tight end. That might lead to some success for Wisconsin tonight.
And lastly, before we head off and get ready to start the game here, it's going to be a lot at stake tonight. What do you think's going to happen?
Boy, it's been paining me to say this all week, Ralph, because I've been talking quite extensively about this football game. We've seen Ohio State, get into some trouble here throughout the season, get a little bit of a slow start. Luckily, against Penn State, against Michigan, they were able to rally back and win the football game. Tonight, if they get themselves off to a slow start, I think it's going to be a bad night for the Buckeyes. And quite frankly, I think this Wisconsin team is fired up. I think they're motivated. I think their defense is for real, even though they haven't technically played anyone this year. And I think that the Badgers jump out to an early lead. They fend the Buckeyes off, and you're going to see Wisconsin win this football game tonight by at least 10, maybe 14 points.
Well, that was a heck of an adventure, guys. Welcome back to Lucas Oil Stadium. My name is Ralph Schudel. This is Andy Evans here for Columbus Wired. Ohio State victorious by a score of 27-21. Had to look because it was just that exciting. Andy, initial thoughts?
What a performance and a way to hang on for Ohio State. A 21-10 lead going into the locker room there at the end of the first half. They just hold on by their knickers, 27-21, like you said. I thought the Buckeyes responded well when faced with a very stout Wisconsin defense there in the second half.
It was big for them, and I think that's just how this team's been, is they've been physical and they've been gritty.
Well, this was certainly the most physical defense that Wisconsin had to face all year long, as well as being a very efficient offense. You know, we talked about it earlier in the week. Wisconsin was second in the nation in time of possession, so a team that liked to run the ball, control the ball, and throw short to their tight ends. I don't know how many screen passes we saw tonight, but Ohio State did a great job defensively. Their defensive line, they just kept rotating in, kept rotating out, keeping those defensive linemen fresh, and I think that was the key to stopping Jonathan Taylor tonight. They really did a great job in containing him, and they really put pressure on Alex Hornibrook. There were several passes there that they really made him overthrow some wide open receivers and fullbacks on those screen passes.
I tell you, Denzel Ward stood out big, though.
Denzel Ward just had an unbelievable game. There were several pass breakups that he had, and one in particular, and there was actually a play that he was involved in where he closed in on a guy, and this guy was wide open. And had he not closed in, Hornibrook had rolled out around this side of the field. It was rolling out wide open. Denzel Ward closes in on him, and if Denzel Ward doesn't do that, he might hit that receiver, and the guy could have gotten a first down. Instead, the speed, the closing speed that, like you said, the Buckeyes showed tonight was definitely a key factor in that defense playing the way they did.
The Buckeyes are your 2017 Big Ten champions, and presumably, sir, for the final time this season, maybe a bowl game.
Well, let's hope a bowl game. Let's hope a college football playoff Final Four. Of course, the rankings will come out here in about 11 hours. The show is here on Sunday at 12 o'clock. So it's going to be interesting. Is this 6-point win enough, Ralph, for the Buckeyes to get in? I mean, they've got some quality wins, but they do have a couple of losses. Of course, that bad one there to Iowa. So this is going to be interesting to see if a 6-point win over the 4th-ranked undefeated team in the country is enough to get them in.
Yeah, once again, Buckeyes victorious by a score of 27-21 for the final time in 2017. I'm Ralph Schudel. This is Andy Evans for Columbus Wired. We'll see you next time.